TNA Wrestling crossed the line again as another action-packed episode of Impact. We are on the road to Victory Road in just 2 short weeks' time, and this week's Impact really set the stage for what is gonna be happening at Victory Road. Let's get straight into it with the opener. Moose going one-on-one against another heavy hitter in AJ Francis of First Class. Ali was on commentary for this one. Obviously, Order 4 and the system at loggerheads at the moment. This was a good opener, actually. Really solid match to kick off the show. Like I said, two heavy hitters in there. That still doesn't prevent Moose from doing some X Division stuff as well. But these two really worked well together. But what I would say, excuse me, about this, Ali on commentary really did offer something a little bit different on there. We know he's going to obviously pander to the fact that he's got the system in his sights and all the four are feuding with them. But he really did add something a little bit more, different to that commentary. The commentary is great from Ray World and Hanny Fan, don't get me wrong, but having Ali there just added that little extra touch of brilliance. But like I said, solid opener on this, and with Ali adding a bit more drama to it in the background. But of course, Moose with the spear picks up the victory and thus challenges Mustafa Ali to a match at Victory Road, which I believe has been at least approved. I don't know if Ali accepted it, but Santina Marella accepted it, and that match will be happening at Victory Road in just a few weeks' time. Now, another match that's going to be happening at Victory Road, it will be Leon Slater defending the X Division Championship. Now, the match Impact was all three of the Rascals, Wentz, Miguel, and Myron Reed, and Jake something in a fatal four-way match to determine the number one contender. The Rascals, however, were having a little bit of a musical battle, should we say, with the lyrics to Guess Who's Back from Eminem. But they were going to basically pleaded their case as to why each particular member was going to win the fatal four-way match a little bit later on Impact to face Leon Slater. Who is it? We'll find out in a minute. And it was a surpriser, that's for sure. Back to the action, though. Must say, TNA's action this week, and it generally is good, don't get me wrong. But TNA's action this week was really, really hot. Don't forget, though, you can watch it TNA Plus app. Get it downloaded, get subscribed, watch TNA weekly. If you get the standard package, you'll watch TNA weekly. But if you want those pay-per-views added, I believe it's the championship package, and you'll get the TNA retro shows from Impact's gone by with the likes of AJ Styles and co. So don't forget to watch that. But back to the action, a relatively short bit of action, but more about what happened after. This was Joe Hendry versus Travis Williams of the Norman Armory, with obviously Eric Young at ringside as well on this. And interesting one, because remember a couple of weeks ago, uh, Eric Young cleansed, that was the word I was thinking of, cleansed Joe Hendry a couple of weeks ago. You'll remember that on Impact. Joe Hendry was at last week, returned last week. And this was a short one. For this particular match, sorry, was short. But nevertheless, Joe Hendry picks up the victory. But what I will say about this is that Travis Williams shined in defeat with this. He hit some real good moves, and he done in this match in general, done a great job of continuing on that feud between Joe Hendry and EY. But it was the aftermath that shocked the world. Now, the aftermath was Joe Hendry picking up the win with a standing ovation. But EY was asking the teammate of Travis Williams, Judas Icarius, to take out Travis Williams. He didn't. So Eric Young took them both out and cleansed the Northern Armory. Two big power drivers in there from Eric Young. I don't know what happens here and what's going to happen going forward, but that added another exciting element to the story between Joe Hendry and Eric Young. Eric Young seemingly, well, definitely has cleansed the Northern Armory, but he will be facing Joe Hendry, and I think that may be well at Victory Road in a couple of weeks, which again, TNA Plus app, everybody. Make sure you watch it. Cardona was next, Matt Cardona, and he was calling out Ryan Nemeth. Basically, obviously, Ryan Nemeth cost him last week for those of you that watched Impact last week, and Matt Cardona wants his revenge. Will he get it? Have to wait and see, guys. But Cardona, he's back in NWA as well. Samhain is Matt Cardona. Looking forward to seeing that. Also, ex TNA star Hammerstone will be returning to the NWA at Samhain against Trevor Murdoch. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Podcast time. Well, you're watching one and listening to one. So, but anyway, podcast time. This time, Victoria Crawford, the former Alicia Fox, had a podcast. And her first guest, much to the surprise of absolutely everybody, including the guest itself, Gia Miller. Now, of course, those of you that will know, Tessa Blanchard was suspended for the attack on Gia Miller way back at Slammiversary, I believe. And yeah, that's basically what this podcast was about. She was accusing her of getting Tessa suspended. It's just like she got what she deserved. What more do you want? And you know, that's the thing with that. Obviously, Tessa will eventually be coming back to TNA. There's no doubt about that. Once suspension is over, I got a feeling maybe at Victory Road we'll see Tessa Blanchard again as we lead into Bound for Glory. But Victoria Crawford wasn't happy with Gia Miller, that's for sure. But as things started to get a bit tasty, out comes Jody Fret to calm the situation down. But of course, Victoria Crawford, she'll be here every week, guys. That is going to be incredible, right? We want to hear Victoria Crawford every week, don't we, everybody? What's that? No, no, neither do I. But a good segment as well. And again, seems to be planting the seeds for Blanchard's comeback. Are they going to do a Gia Miller, Jody Fret tag team against Victoria Crawford and Tessa Blanchard? Maybe we'll have to wait and see. But my goodness gracious me, what a match did we get next on TNA Impact? This was absolutely brilliant, and it's going to be X Division related, right? Of course it is. Leon on commentary for this match. Myron Reed, Zachary Wentz, Trey Miguel, and Jake something. This was brilliant. And you had three similar styles in there, but then you had the Jake something power style as well, and that just gives you that little bit of breathing space or that little sort of heavy hitting thing. Because obviously you're going to see the rascals flying over everywhere, and sometimes if you've got too much of that, it is a distraction. But when you have that big powerful guy in there that can actually take them out at the same time, it adds that great element to it. And this was tremendous. And as I said, the power from Jake Something added that nice little difference to the mix of this particular match. Really enjoyed this. Rascals were teaming up quite well as well for the majority of this match. There was a massive black hole slam, a shout out to Abyss on that one. However, it was a 450 from Myron Reed that picked up the real surprise victory in this. And with that victory, Myron Reed goes to Victory Road to face Leon Slater in a match. It's going to be one of them ones where they're going to finish up and go, follow that. And it's going to be near on impossible to be following Myron Reed and Leon Slater at Victory Road. So good luck to whoever gets that job. You'd have pulled the short straw a mile away. But things hadn't finished with Jake something at that point. He goes out to the back and bumps into the King, of TNA, Frankie Kazarian. And, he called him Jake Jobber, which was quite funny. Um, but he has offered Jake something, an opportunity to side with Kazarian. That's an interesting one. Didn't expect that this week. It was quite a few I didn't expect this week on TNA, and that was certainly one of them. Kazarian and Jake something is going to be interesting. Will they partner each other? Will Jake something go towards partnering with the King of TNA? Speaking of the King of TNA, you can watch our interview with Frankie Kazarian in the playlist. If you're watching on the Wrestling Edge podcast, by the way, head on over to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast and you will see that particular interview. It'll be uploaded to the Wrestling Edge podcast very, very soon, by the way. We're gradually hitting the turnbuckle and the Wrestling Edge have kind of merged together. So you'll be seeing content shared across both platforms. So be interesting to see what you guys, you fans of the Wrestling Edge, think of that. And make sure you go and follow Hitting the Turnbuckle as well. And likewise, follow the Wrestling Edge on the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. So you go and see it as well. So seeing a lot of cross shows, which would be good. Um, However, the inspiration and the elegance brand, they have had a little bit of a to-do now for quite some time over these Knockouts Tag Team Championships. And this week, it was kind of, it was Jessica McKay versus Heather by Elegance. Quite a quick one, this. With assistance from M by Elegance, Heather picks up the victory. And then they go and attack Jessica McKay. Out comes Cassie Lee. And that then brings a match between Cassie Lee and M by Elegance. Confused? Not so much. Great action between the two. Really good way to building the feud up by having the two people from the teams face off. And it was one each in this because Cassie Lee picks up the win with the Inspiral move as well. And there was a bit of outside influence in this from Jessica McKay and Heather by Elegance. So, really good way that TNA are building this up. Now, again, the inspiration could well get Knockouts Championship gold on this. And that's not the last we see of the Elegance brand. They're backstage with Ash at this point and the concierge to try and get the match between Ash and Masha Slamovich changed or dropped. Well, Santino does change the match. It's no DQ, and Indy Hartwell is the referee for this match. And he also books that Knockouts tag team match between the Elegance brand and the Inspiration. Are the Inspiration finally going to get their hands on those Knockouts Division Champion Tag Team Championships? We'll wait and see. And we were going to get a Mike Santana match next. But that didn't happen because Trick Williams attacked him during Mike Santana's entrance and they were brawling everywhere. So that match with Santana didn't happen. But what is going to be happening at Bound for Glory is Santana Williams TNA Championship. And that, my friends, will be where Santana wins the gold. Now, next week on TNA is already looking stacked. We have Mustafa Ali, Brian Myers, all the four in the system collide once more. We have Indy Hartwell versus Danny Luna. What a match that's going to be, guys. That is going to be brilliant. I'm going to be looking forward to that one. That is for sure. We're going to have another King's Speech with Frankie Kazarian. What is he up to? Will it involve Jake something? I don't know. And the Inspiration and Masha Slamovich will compete against the Elegance brand in a six-woman tag team match. It's enough reasons to get download and subscribe to the TNA Plus app. Get it, subscribe it, watch. Simple as that. Now, main event time on Impact this week, and it was the Nemeths versus the System. Who'd have thought you'd hear that when people don't like the Nemeths and people didn't like the System for a lot of the time, but now they do indeed. This was a methodical tag team match, and this match capped off a brilliant in-ring action episode of TNA Impact. I will say this, the system deserves so much of what they've done over the last 18 months to carry TNA through this amazing growth that they've got going on here. We always love to see Nick Nemeth in the ring as well, don't get me wrong, but you've got to give the system their flowers for what they've done to make that brand, to make the TNA brand and to grow that TNA brand the way they have. They need their flowers. They certainly think that it's going to be, so they certainly deserve it. That's for sure. And this was a great way to cap off the show. Really good tag team match this. But Nick Nemeth did pin Eddie Edwards with the super kick to get the job done for the brothers Nemeth. However, it doesn't end there. Ryan Nemeth gets on the mic, invokes the rematch clause for the Nemeths versus the Hardy Boys for the TNA Tag Team Championships next week on TNA. Hardy's Nemeths Tag Team Championships are on the line. What an episode of Impact this was this week. I tell you what, they are on a great run right now as the road to Victory Road gets ever closer. Do not forget, like I've said throughout this podcast, download, subscribe, TNA Plus. Get whatever package that you want. I would suggest the championship package, but it's up to you. I would get that package and you can see everything TNA related. But if you're watching on the Wrestling Edge podcast, welcome back. There's a lot more coming. If you're watching on the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast, you know what's coming. There is a lot coming. Ignite is coming. Buckle Up is coming next weekend. Cannot wait to get back to Shenley Road and to present to you an incredible show. Big thanks to TNA, of course, for all the interviews they've been giving us. Like I said, you can see that on the Wrestling Edge podcast as well. That's coming up very, very soon. So keep it locked and loaded to both podcasts. But until next week, if you're a TNA fan, everybody, cross the line and stay safe.